Why do you believe society still holds men over women, Lauren?
I honestly think it just kind of goes down to history, like how sometimes people talk about how racism is something ingrained in some people. I think the same mentality of like women being less than or um less important or don't necessarily need their flowers or recognition sometimes is embedded. And like you said, for so long, the system has been like created to make it so where women have to rely on men for everything, like to have bank accounts, to go to school, to purchase, do large purchases. Like for such a long time, um, that was the case. And even on TikTok, I've seen like there's a new conversation now of like a lot of older women are telling the younger women, especially in our community, like not necessarily don't get married, but don't feel like you have to get married because from their point of view, they had to get married and that's their way, that was their way of survival. They had to depend on a man to provide for everything. Whereas now women can go to school, they can go to college, they can have careers for themselves.
They can vote.
Yeah,
Remember we, yep.
exactly. Um, I just feel like we're undervalued because of history. I think that's why racism still exists today. I think it's something embedded, and we, at least speaking from a woman's perspective, I feel like we're just not appreciated enough, especially in the Black community. It's almost like we're expected to perform so much in so many different areas that it's like we don't get our flowers because that's expected of us. And I don't know how it is for men, but it's like men could do the simplest thing and they get praised for it. And I guess maybe because they're just not expected to do certain things.
And that's the stereotype that's really wrong with how society thinks, which I'm still trying to understand why. Now I feel like people are people. I feel like we should be treated equally. We should be treated, don't doesn't matter the race, your gender or how you identify. It doesn't matter. I think we should all should be treated the same way. Now, I do believe that there are some contexts where it comes to um in different households, this the responsibilities of the guy and the responsibilities of the woman. I feel like that's very cliche because like I said, women women can do the same things as men does. Now, the only difference between the guy and the woman is that women can carry children. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. And I think that other than that, we should be accommodating to those type of things. But when it comes to equal pay, when it comes to respect, because I just don't understand, especially in our generation, women are starting to be more independent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand, and I want you to help me elaborate on how can guys or how can guys and men help women to support them? How can we support them in pursuing stuff like equal pay or equal respect? How can guys do that? Because from my perspective, I feel like I could do all I can. I still try to collaborate with different, especially black women, collaborate with black women or, give props where, respect and props to women who I like to work with or who I find very interesting in their business or their craft. How can women gain more respect and support from men?
I think one way that came immediately to my mind, honestly, if men stop look over sexualizing women in the workplace. I think that's a good start. I feel like on a lot of different shows where women may co-host or or just be a part of the staff. Sometimes women are just seen as the pretty figure, or we just need somebody pretty on this show, or we just need an image. And that's not the case. A
Do
lot of
you think it's done intentionally, or do you think that it's just paints the picture that way? That's the way it works out.
both. I think it's
Okay.
both. I really think it's both. Sometimes it may be intentional, um, and unintentional because from like a marketing standpoint, um, the head may be like, okay, if we have this pretty woman, we'll get more male viewers and da 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 da. And then in other cases, the woman just may be a pretty woman and she has to deal with sometimes what comes with that. Um, I think if men just look at women as equals instead of like the lesser, I know men honestly, feel have a natural instinct of being the head, of being the leader, and can get easily intimidated by women who have strong opinions or have a lot to say or offer a lot. Um, just seeing them as equals, I think that helps. And I think advocating for women. I think sometimes some men have such a big ego that it's like everything has to be about them. And if certain women get into certain doors, into certain industries, whether that's media, whether that's sports, whether that's corporate, whatever it is, if there's a woman in your space, I think you should be giving her as heavy tasks as you have and expecting her to kind of just do the same level of work. Um, I think that's the best way to put it. I think another way that men can just support women in general, this may sound really like old fashioned and traditional, but today, like I and a few other my sister queens, we were getting things from our warehouse today, and we passed by several men who didn't even want to lend a helping hand. I think one way of support is again just eliminating the selfish aspect. If you see a woman needing help in that aspect, whether it's carrying things.
Well, okay, now does that go down to a gender thing there? Because, well, like I said, that I understand. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If I see like you're struggling with
Yeah.
something, I'm gonna help you, right? But do you feel like some guys maybe think like this woman probably wants to do everything by herself. She wants to be independent. Do you think that's like a thing now?
Mm-hmm.
Or because maybe those guys didn't think that you guys needed help or something like that?
I agree because I feel like I think sometimes the reason why we have to be independent, especially as Black women, what I've learned, especially dealing with that little boy I was with, um,
Yes, she admits it. Yes.
um, is that sometimes we can't even rely on men. It's like we may need something and they
Okay,
don't
what do you mean by rely? Financially, emotionally, all together?
all
Because there's okay,
together.
that's fair.
If we're Shimei, you wouldn't do this to me because you're really professional and you get things done. But let's say, for example, um, I needed you to write a script today for something, like our show, for example. And you said you were going to get it to me by a certain time. You didn't get it to me by a certain time. We're about to do the show. I don't know what's going on. So I have to write the script to send it in for the deadline. Things like that. Um, when, at least for me, and I know a lot of other women, when a man says they're going to do something, and this isn't always about relationships, this is literally like in any capacity, we're expecting the man to follow through. And when they don't, it's like, okay, well, I guess I just have to handle it all by myself. Um, so I think that drives the whole independent factor sometimes. And I think that's a lot of reasons why women are now also pushing so hard to get into their own career paths because a lot of men aren't aren't doing their own thing.
Ladies and gentlemen,